Well, hello there. You're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mail's Whitehall editor, Claire Ellicott. Great to see both of you. Welcome. So let's take a look then at the front pages. And with the headline, "Not even a tear for Sarah," the Metro reports that 10-year-old Sarah Sharif's father showed no emotion as he was found guilty of her murder today. A quote on the front of the Express describes Sarah as having been killed by the very adults who should have loved and protected her. The Daily Mail asks, why does this keep happening? As it reports authorities missed at least 15 chances to stop Sarah's murder. Sarah's story also on the front of the Daily Mirror, the smile that hid a life of torture, the headline. Meanwhile, the government will cut more than 10,000 civil service jobs as departments battle to stay within spending limits, according to The Guardian. Amid proposed planning reforms spearheaded by the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, The Telegraph warns of a Labour bid to bulldoze the home counties. According to the Financial Times, the Qatari government is seeking to double its $500 billion sovereign wealth fund by doing deals with the British and American governments. And The Star, again, leans on boffins, this time to suggest that AI and chatbots will turn us all into zombies. A reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you listen to our guests. So let's head to Kevin and to Claire. Most newspapers, as we saw, Claire, dominated by the convictions today in the case of Sarah Sharif, with the revelations truly shocking and so many questions now about what went wrong, given she was under a protective plan from before she was born.
This poor little girl, 10 years old, was murdered by her father and stepmother, and as the Mail has on its front page, they missed 15, the authorities missed 15 chances to save her. The trouble is, you will always have awful, horrible people in the world, but we have a system that's supposed to be there to protect children and to protect those who may end up their victims. And it's clear that there have been real failures in this case. There's a safeguarding review going on. There's loads of questions for Surrey Social Services, who are supposed to have protected this poor little girl. And we've seen the heartbreaking footage of her today, playing her guitar. She's adorable, she's clearly spirited, she's got everything to live for. And her parents, her stepmother and her father, you know, you've also heard on Sky today the transcript of his conversation with the emergency services, and it's just heartbreaking. There were clearly signs that things were going wrong and a need for someone to intervene, and the fact that this hasn't happened leaves really, really big questions.
Absolutely. You know, under a protection plan from birth, taken into foster care more than once, given to her mother, given to her father, school raises questions, is homeschooled. Why is she allowed to be homeschooled when the school has already raised questions? These are the sort of questions that the Children's Commissioner has begun to ask and demand answers to, that there could be changes on elements of this.
No, absolutely, and then learn lessons to hopefully it won't happen again. But of course it has happened before, and sadly, parents will kill children in the future. Most parents reading this are just going to be absolutely horrified. We need to know the broad outline of what she suffered to understand the case, and it is absolutely horrific, and your heart sinks as you read it, and you look at that little girl who is now dead and being killed in the most brutal, horrific way by the people who should have loved her most and protected her most. But the family is a cornerstone of society, but some families shouldn't have children, and this emphasis to try and keep families together is sometimes wrong. She should have been taken away long ago, because they were not fit parents. It's quite clear when you look through the case, and allowing them to keep her in the end resulted in her death. But all the lessons have to be learned. I mean, the courts, police, social services, and teachers. Why? You need to know, and then it is learn those lessons to try and stop this happening.
Like
again.
basic data sharing, for example.
Yeah.
Why was a case closed after the school raised it in less than a week when she was already listed as having been in care? I mean, this is really basic stuff at the end of the day, isn't it?
I think one of the most heartbreaking bits is that social services got her file in 2023, I think, and it was closed after 6 days. And this was a girl, there was some testimony from one of her friends saying she turned up at school covered in bruises and lied about falling off her bike. But even her young friends knew that that wasn't true. And it feels... I think there were some reports that she wore a hijab to try to cover up some of her injuries. Some of the stuff we've seen reported during the court case, that she was bitten, that she was hooded, that she was tortured to death by these two people, is absolutely savage. And it's just really hard to think that, you know, why wasn't someone from social services checking up on the family?
But what we do know is the courts, the police, social services and teachers' schools are all under enormous pressure.
Yes.
They've great resource pressure, pressure of time, pressure to deal with so much. That's not to excuse the mistakes that have clearly been made, but it is to try and explain them and understand them and how you can try and sort them so it doesn't happen again. Of course, something like this will happen again somewhere, but you want to minimise it.
Yes, and if each social worker has 40, 50, 60 cases,
Yep.
you know, we were told that they should be prioritised. The question is, well, surely this was a priority.
Surely.
And then we were told, well, it's all relative. So how, you know, how bad can it be elsewhere?
No, absolutely. You're right, though. It's clearly should be a priority, but how many other kids were like this in that area? And I suspect she's not going to be alone.
There were real echoes of the Baby P case, which was absolutely horrific, and social services made a lot of mistakes in that case, and we saw kind of the aftermath of that, them trying to defend some of their actions. And I think having a safeguarding review is really important to determine what went wrong and to try to stop it happening again. But Baby P wasn't that long ago, and it does feel like these things happen far too often.
Yes, many of the injuries that Sarah suffered, the court heard, had been inflicted using implements, including a cricket bat, a vacuum, a metal pole, evidence of the restraint that you talked about, her head covered with homemade hoods made from parcel tape and plastic bags. While some of the injuries were while the injuries were inflicted, she would be in this plastic bag and tape. I mean, it's just terrible.
We've been discovering the extent of the inhumanity and the torture in Syria by Assad's regime, but here in Hampshire, people who are adults who are animals torturing a little girl. It's just absolutely horrific when it's happening in our own country.
Yes. Well, case review, no doubt, sentencing to come as well. I'm sure more will come out about this as well.
I would have thought throw away the key.
Well,
they are facing a lifetime behind bars.
Yeah. Let's move on to politics, I guess. Financial Times, a very dramatic photo among many of the tractors descending, Claire, once again into central London, to Westminster.
Yes, I'm based in Parliament, and we spent the whole day trying to work and listening to this noise outside. But it's clear these people are very impassioned. There's hundreds of tractors descended on Parliament Square today, and they were all beeping, doing go-slows around the square, and it was quite a convivial atmosphere. You know, they do really believe what they're protesting against, which is the budget changes which means that farmers will be liable to inheritance tax above a certain level, and they accuse Labour of destroying their livelihoods and threatening family farms, which may now have to be broken up in order to pay inheritance tax bills that they now face. And this was their way of demonstrating against it. It's very colourful, it's very powerful, it's captured the nation's mood. People really know about this tax on farmers, and I think Labour are taking a lot of flack over it.
Yeah, I mean, not the first time, and not just in London, to be fair.
I'll question whether it's the nation's mood. Some of the nation, not the rest of the nation. I didn't go down, didn't pop in our House of Commons to see, get off my land, as they might if I was with them. But can you imagine if that was just stop oil, rather than just stop soil? They would be they'd be demanding they be arrested. The people who are cheering them on, the MPs cheering them on, they say got to be arrested, got to be banned, can't bring London to a standstill like that. But that's a fantastic picture. But it is a political problem for the government. It's got to get its message across how when they filled up their tractors with their subsidised red diesel and come into London like this to create traffic chaos. The fact that the deal they're getting on inheritance tax was there until Margaret Thatcher lifted it for farms and landowners in the mid-1980s. We actually had more of our food produced by British farmers when last time inheritance tax was levied, but their allowance is up to 3 times what most other people will get. The rate will only be half what other people will pay, and they'll get 10 years.
They're not listening to you, Kevin.
No. You've got to get it across, because you might not win them, because of course they've got a vested interest, entitled, privilege, whatever it is. They're fighting their corner. It's like other groups do. They're entitled to in a democracy. But you've got to get the message across to everybody else, because they don't speak for the entirety of even rural areas.
But the difficulty for Labour is, what is it, about 100 now of the constituencies they won are in rural areas. Yeah. You have a story on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, Labour bid to bulldoze the home counties, and down the bottom the Mac cartoon, if we've got it, while I was in London. The government built these houses on my land. But the point is that Labour is being accused of not liking a large part of our country that lives in rural or semi-rural areas.
Those people in those rural areas, farmers are a minority. I'm not sweeping them away.
But not for people in green belt areas that feel that their amenity land is...
People in those rural areas will be using the health service, education, transport, relying on a criminal justice system, all those services which need improving. And if the inheritance tax on land, and including farmers, raises the $500 million that it's forecast to do, if it does, well, that will be money.
Chicken feed compared to any large budget that we have in this country. That is the point they're making.
That will be $500 million's not chicken feed. If you've got $500 million to spend...
What is the NHS and social care budget for this country?
Yeah, it might be, 140, 150 billion, but $500 million can spend a lot of money. For instance, if you were going to subsidise bus fares, if you had another $500 million, you could probably just about abolish them, never mind reduce them down to £2 from going up to £3.
It is about prioritising, and clearly they feel
and there's a very small group who've had Mrs Thatcher... back in the 1980s, gave them a deal because she thought they'd be her supporters, and they're going to lose their special deal. But they'll get another special. They'll have a feather-bedded inheritance tax system.
Talk about this next
Sorry, I thought she was going to lean forward and cut me out.
I think it's about time.
And no one's putting the other case, is it? It's all farmers, great. But no one puts the other side. That's what's missing in this debate.
Apart from the entirety of the government, but apart from
no, they don't.
Still to come. Sir Chris Whitty, the government's chief medical officer, who became a household name, we all remember, during the pandemic, thinks there should be a tax now on junk food. Back with that in a moment.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people. Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised. If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
We'd been warned that we would meet people in the lowest moment of their lives.
Their story is one of fundamental American failure. Well, a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club, but I have to say there are more media here than there are supporters. We love Trump! I've witnessed the remarkable passion for politics here, but the anger too. This is just the audience that Joe Biden wanted.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
But it's important, it's at the heart of the issue.
For all the talk of a toned-down, humbled Trump, yes, maybe there was just a little less rhetoric, a little less divisiveness, but in the end it was the same rhythm, the same speech, the same man.
All them people that died in Russia and Ukraine, they'd still be alive today if Donald Trump was the president.
If it was my wish, have a businessman that's strong like Trump, but maybe just doesn't say as much, you know?
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What we've been allowed to see over here is a humanitarian corridor. Free wherever you get your news.
A young American medical student is making remarkable things happen.
I've seen a lot of difficult things, and honestly, it breaks my heart. These children don't deserve that.
I don't think there's a single Arab I know who isn't seriously disturbed by what's going on.
And so they gathered for this wonder of nature.
I'm very excited right now.
This is an extraordinary moment beyond anything I could have expected. Sky News, get the full story first.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party. I'm Neville Lazarus, and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration. Sky News, get the full story first.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again, Kevin Maguire and Claire Ellicott. To the Telegraph, Kevin, we go. Plans for, as they put it, a fat tax on junk food. This is the Chief Medical Officer, Chris Whitty.
Yeah, England's Chief Medical Officer, of course, became very famous, prominent during COVID, and he's looking at the obesity epidemic. And he's saying, look, the only way we can do it is to get people to eat healthier by taxing unhealthy foods, those heavy with fat and sugar. And it's a very good idea medically, but I always wonder, will a government want to be seen to be putting up the price of food when improving living standards, household disposable income is its big economic priority now after it's sort of sidelined the high sustained economic growth in the G7 because it's not going to be delivered.
Do they say what food, and if that would discriminate against certain groups, for example?
Yeah, well, it's probably poorer people, isn't it? Proposes an industry-wide levy on salt and sugar. Category, rather like what's happened in soft drinks, where George Osborne came in with a sugar tax, which you always hope would raise nothing because it was intended to change the behaviour of the drinks manufacturers, which it did some and it didn't others. But by saying don't do it because you'll hit poorer people hardest, well, that used to be the argument with don't ban smoking indoors because it tends to be poorer people who smoke. Well, you kind of save lives if you do intervene, or do we just let poorer people die?
Yeah, I mean, problem is you take, salt, sugar, fat out, it just tastes not as good, doesn't it? I always say I'm one of these people who put salt on ready meals, so... should we move on? Do you mind? I apologise. To the Financial Times, which is a bit of a hand grenade talking point, to be fair. Bosses must be paid like footballers if the UK is to compete. This is somebody in the city of London.
As you've just pointed out, a billionaire financier saying that people who run companies should be paid more. I think there is an argument for this. There has been, after the financial crash, there was a real kind of backlash against bankers. There were calls for them not to get bonuses. But the reality is...
Get bonuses as shares.
Yes.
So they have to stay with the company and be responsible and...
Yes. And, some of those were targeted. But I think Rachel Reeves has actually said that some of it went too far and she's trying to raise some of it back. The reality is that these are highly competitive global industry. The City of London still makes up a large proportion of our GDP. And actually, do you need to incentivise good people by paying them lots of money to get them to do a good job? Yes, I think you probably do.
It doesn't need to speak, it's just his face.
I'm just...
We know what you're going to think about this one. We will ask you that next time as well. Anyway, lots more still to come. Thank you for now, both of you. Thank you. Here is the weather. So it's looking fairly settled this week, if chilly and cloudy for many, but northern parts will turn wet and windy over the weekend. A cool, rather murky start for most tomorrow. Hill fog, patchy drizzle in the east. Expect a sharp frost where skies are clear. Some dense fog in places as well. Scotland most at risk of that. Central and southern parts will see grey, damp conditions again, becoming more extensive tomorrow morning. And southern Scotland looks like clouding over. The bulk of Scotland will be quite sunny again, though. Northwest England, Western Wales and the northwest of Ireland can expect some sunny spells too. Well, our press preview continues in Sky News at 11. Questions now for social services after the father and stepmother of Sarah Sharif are found guilty of her murder.
Play Sky News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7.
Now that you're up to date, we can go into a bit more detail.
Things can change incredibly quickly.
Taken by surprise.
Have you ever known a moment like this in British politics before? Yes. Cheers.
We'll start with breaking news.
Let's get the latest on the ground.
So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better.
Day of this conflict. They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Heavy vehicle. Why only in America? People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.